Leslie Sanchez, Republican strategist and CBS News contributor, joins us now to talk all about this. Okay, Leslie, this is President Donald Trump versus Mitch McConnell, a man that has great standing among Republicans in the Senate. Where do you see this headed?
Nothing like circling the wagons and shooting at each other. You know, it's a really great strategy. It gets us very far. You know, the interesting part about this, Mitch McConnell is not necessarily somebody who's incredibly endearing and very much liked on Capitol Hill. People would fundamentally say that he doesn't have a lot of supporters, but now the allegiance for him and his leadership is very strong. Donald Trump's managed to do that. It is not going to be an effective approach with these very broad promises, little action, and a lot of big, vicious insults. It's not a good combination for really moving healthcare or any other reform forward.
And the president has a very ambitious agenda that he wants to push through, even in the fall. How is he going to do that if he's insulted the Senate Majority Leader?
Well, sure, you can have sharp elbows in politics. There's nothing like that. Still, at the end of the day, you tend to, you know, have a good dinner companion across the aisle. That's the way Washington works. But there's also long memories. People remember the cheap shots. They remember how much political capital they had to expend to protect the president or the leadership. And they're really making political calculations. What are they going to run on in the fall? The Senate is not so much, but really what is the political damage of taking action or not taking action? And the president's not helping kind of ease those concerns. And long term, it's going to be incredibly difficult in the fall for him to pass anything meaningful. You
know, Leslie, historically, when a president has really low approval ratings, it ends up showing in midterms for his party.
Sure.
Do you think that you're also seeing these, it's not obviously normal times, you're seeing Republicans on Capitol Hill separate themselves from his rhetoric. Do you think they're going to be affected in 2018?
Absolutely. The House members already, I've already heard of one opposition firm that said we're ready to cut the ads against House Republicans that basically say you took this vote on what even the president called a mean-spirited health care bill, and they're going that cuts Medicaid for your seniors, which is the last thing you want to see. So they're putting themselves in precarious positions if you can't pass reform that makes the system better. And fundamentally, there's not a lot of faith among the American electorate that we're getting there. They have to work together.
I want to ask you about North Korea. Obviously, that's on everyone's minds right now. Where do you see this headed, and the fact that, you know, there's such tough talk coming from him? There's also some talk about potentially back-channel negotiations taking place. What are you hearing?
A little bit. Some pollsters, I would argue, and Republican analysts believe that these destabilizing rhetoric is actually a positive thing. That it goes contrary to everything else everybody would feel at the moment. The feeling of tension is not a good thing, but they feel that it may cause pause and take that strong, firm approach that they wanted to see under President Obama but did not. So how this plays out, if it's miscalculated, is really the threat here. Fundamentally, we don't know. It's not an approach anybody is particularly comfortable with.
You know, this White House Senator McCain had said earlier in the week, one of his staffers, that he wasn't briefed on the situation in North Korea. What do you make of the fact that there's so many on Capitol Hill that still don't know exactly what's happening?
I think that's been consistent for the last 6 months. You know, one person said the last 6 months feel like, you know, the last 7 years in dog years. Like, it's gone by so fast. It's so exhausting. They don't know. They're constantly caught off, flat-footed. And that's not the way to ingratiate yourself among your own coalition that really has to do the heavy lifting. So members need to be part of an alliance to move it forward. It's really easy to blame, and when you want to be a reformer, to come from the outside, blame Washington, that's great, but when you're on the inside, you have to negotiate some deals to get these done.
What are Republicans saying to you, Leslie, when they talk about what's their biggest concerns for the party as a whole?
Overall, they're fearful they're not going to be able to keep these Rust Belt states that were really critical for the win. They're fearful of the midterm elections without having tax reform. They're going to go back to the economy. They like that jobs are growing and unemployment's at an all-time low, 17-year low. They like the fact that Republicans are optimistic about the markets. You're seeing the markets do well. Those are on the high side. But without health care reform, without tax reform, without some meaningful things to run on, they're fearful what next fall looks like. And if you think about it, Rena, we really only have the spring of next year. We only have a few critical months to move some big pieces. And without moving those chess pieces, Republicans can be in a very serious situation come next fall.
And those are very big chess pieces that you're talking about.
Definitely.
Leslie Sanchez, great to have you here on set. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.